Welcome back to the OC 20, a celebration and love letter to season 1 of the OC. If you're just tuning in, we recommend that you start with our intro episode so you understand what we will be doing for the next 5 weeks. But this week, we're going to be discussing Seth Cohen. What's up, Seth?
Not much.
Not Seth Cohen. This week is all about Seth Cohen, who was portrayed by Adam Brody. This is the first character up for discussion. Why did you choose Seth? I need to know, even though I kind of know.
Sure. So, like I said in the intro, some of these characters that we pick might be obvious. Some of them might not be obvious. Obviously, Ryan is the show. Mm-hmm. Seth, I feel like the show kind of changes directions a little bit and showcases Seth a lot more than Ryan. That could be for a number of reasons, but Seth is great. He's very funny. He is one of the only characters who is, at the beginning of the show, completely innocent. A lot of the characters, when we're introduced to them, we're seeing bad things that they've done, or we're seeing them in a bad light. For example, we're introduced to Jimmy, right? Because Marissa is like fending off the authorities who are coming to like arrest him and investigate him. So he starts off on a wrong foot. Ryan, obviously, right? Julie, what do we know about Julie? We know that she's judgmental about Marissa's hair choice, and she wants her froyo. And Seth, because he's been isolated for what we can assume is like his entire life, really, at least with the information I have in season 1. There could be some long lost best friend that comes back in season 3. Who knows? But Seth, for the most part, has been isolated. Yeah. And so he's committed no wrongs in terms of like dramatic storytelling. He fulfills the role of the goofy sidekick, but also like the voice of reason. He is like in Lord of the Flies, he would be similar to like Piggy, right? So he's not the guy running the show, but he's the guy that the guy who's running the show cares about.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he's incredibly charming. He's very funny. He's involved in one of maybe my least favorite plot points of the entire first season, which is the love triangle between him, Anna, and Summer. It's really silly. But you have a guy who goes from having no friends and no girlfriends to having 2 interesting, beautiful women fighting over him. I can, for one episode, I can kind of see that. But this goes on and on and on. Yeah. But yeah, I love Seth. I think he's great.
Did you love him from the beginning? Like,
yes.
Do you have a clear episode of you're like, okay, I'm real into you, Seth?
No, I think his character from the pilot to the second episode does change a little bit. The show has a bit of a buffer because we can see the more he's with Ryan, the more he comes out himself of his own shell. And so you could say, well, that's why. In the first episode, his hair is much shorter.
Mm-hmm. You know, he has like a weird blunt cut bang situation.
Yeah, but he's... Adam Brody is playing him more shy, right? And I love the Confidence Cohen arc that we get with Anna, where she says it to him in the beginning as if he's an idiot, but then she says it to him at the end when she leaves as there's a lot in it. I think when she says it the second time, it's I love you, it's be sure of yourself. You know what I mean? There's more to it than when she says it the first time. Mm-hmm. And Seth does emerge more and more confident in who he is. In the first episode, he's kind of like, when they're at the fashion show fundraiser thing, you know, he's very like down. His hands are...
He's sitting at the kids' table.
He's sitting at the kids' table. He says to Luke, oh, hey, Luke. And then kind of like hides his face away. That is not the Seth Cohen of mid-season, season 1. He changes drastically. You could look at that and say it's bad writing. I don't think so. I think it's just character development.
No, it's character development.
Yeah. And also people responding to the show and probably being like, we want more Seth Cohen. He's so funny.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think the love triangle annoyed you so much? Is it because it just went on for too long, or you didn't find it believable?
Yeah, I don't know that I found it believable. I get that Summer has an attraction to him. Shout out to Summer.
Shout out to Summer.
Summer's great. Throughout the whole first season, Summer says that she has to go pee, I think 9 times.
I know you kept sending that to me.
She's constantly...
Which is so funny.
Either saying that she has to pee.
Or do you want to go pee?
Referring to pee. There's one time where she just says something is like pee. And I'm like, what is this pee thing with Summer? Did you ever notice that?
I didn't. And I was watching the Third Wheel episode last night, which is the Rooney episode.
Yeah, great episode.
And she says to Anna, like, I gotta pee. You want to go pee?
Yeah.
Oh, I could pee. And then I watched the pilot. And she's like, oh, I have to pee.
Yes,
and I was like, oh my God.
It's constant.
I'm so tuned into this now that you said something.
It's not a thing with the OC where everyone's talking about pee. No. It is Summer. Summer is always talking about pee. Anyway, that's... So I get the thing with Summer and Seth where it's opposites attract, right? And I think more often than not in real life, that's kind of how it works out. Seth and Anna, I get because they share the same interests. And Anna is from Pittsburgh, ew. And so she is an outsider, where Seth is from there, but he feels like an outsider. Seth has never been accepted by the OC community, right?
Right.
And I don't know if I said this in the first episode or not, but to me, the whole show is about coming and going from this one central hub, the OC. It's a nameless, faceless community of people, a geographical location, more so than a lot of other TV shows that I have seen. Characters are constantly coming into town and leaving town. And that's where a lot of arcs kind of start and end. And I wrote down a list of like everyone throughout the first season who's, well, this person's in town now, or oh, that person left, or this person's going to jail now, or that person. Seth is the only person in the OC who is a complete outsider, but he's there from the beginning. And so I get why him and Anna connect with each other. Why Anna and Summer, two smart, nice, young, beautiful, capable young women, are fighting over one guy knowingly, that I don't get. I don't buy that.
Well, there's a little competition there and like the natural need to win or want to win.
But
and
they're friends with each other.
They are friends with each other.
If you threw out that element of it and there was like more anger or angst between the two of them, but they're like, there's one episode where they're kind of just like, forget Seth. Let's go hang out with ourselves.
But that's actually one of the things I love about this show is how they don't pit women against each other. In a lot of teen dramas, you'll have these girls that are quote unquote best friends, but they're always, there are where they're fighting over the same guy, but they'll put each other down or they'll actually get into a literal physical fight and constantly mad at each other. And I feel like these characters, Anna, Summer, Marissa, Teresa, there's just respect.
Yeah.
Towards one another. And that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Truly refreshing.
Yeah. I don't want them to be fighting.
No, right.
I just don't want them to be hopelessly in love with this guy who's like never been outside before.
But there's just something about him.
There's something about Seth. Yeah.
There's something about Seth.
Yeah.
There was a text you sent me during your watch, how you said, big comedy is not funny. I get it. I am Seth.
I'm really glad you brought this up. This was another part of the show where, you talk about Seth Cohen being half Jewish, half not, Chrismica, right? And how that really connected with you. So Ryan's first enemy is Luke, right?
Yeah.
Okay. His next enemy after that is Oliver, right? Varying degrees of evil, okay? Seth's enemy in the show, Danny, who's just a bad comic. You know what I mean?
This is the guy who's dating Summer.
Very briefly. I think he's only around for one episode, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And great job by the actor, because to pull that off in a believable way, I would be humiliated to do this performance.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so hacky. And so Seth is like, doing big comedy. That's not funny. Anybody can do that. Anybody. And Danny is like, he's just doing all of the Jim Carrey or like Dane Cook.
Yeah,
like he really reminded me of Dane Cook, who was really big around that time.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I agree with you, Seth. Anyone can do that. But like the quiet, the smart jokes, the little quips and stuff, that's much more my like alley and what I like to listen to myself. And so that's where I was like, oh man, Seth, you got it. You're great.
There was also another moment you noticed a particular poster.
Yeah. So
in Seth's bedroom.
Yeah. In the pilot, we go into Seth's room and he has a lot of like punk band posters on his wall, but it's like the Ramones and the Clash and very, good stuff, but very like surface level stuff that you would like see in Hot Topic or that's like very easily accessible. Later on in the season, Seth's room kind of gets like a redo and all the posters change. And there's this one poster that's very predominantly featured in many scenes.
Do you remember where it was in his room?
Yep. So if you walk into Seth's room.
Yes. Which I knew.
If you walk into Seth's room.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a hallway.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And to his right would be the computer and like a dresser.
Yep.
To the left is where his bed comes out from the wall.
Yeah.
So right on that corner, if you were to spin around and look, there's a little bit of wall that comes out. There's a poster right there. So that's for a band called Adam and His Package. Adam is spelled H-E-O-M. And it's very obscure. If anyone listening to this has heard of this band, I'll give you $100. $100. Yeah. Very, very obscure. And it's just one guy, a Jewish guy, who sings a lot about being Jewish, who would play like synth music and he would play electric guitar over it. And that was it. That was like the whole band. And it's a lot of like funny songs. It's very Seth Cohen. And so knowing that band and then seeing the poster on the wall, I was like, again, it was like a moment of like, what is this show? Like who is making this? And a lot of times when very popular shows they'll make references to things. It's almost always like very dated. That poster for that band was an album that came out in 2003. So this wasn't something like, oh, I found this at a yard sale or whatever. This was somebody who knew what this album was and decided, yes, this is what we should, adorn his room with. And this is the stuff that he would be into. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the creator, Josh Schwartz? He's one of the youngest showrunners. He was 26.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
When he wrote the show, yeah.
That is very young.
Along with Stephanie Savage, who was his producing partner. But the team was pretty great, so they had a keen eye for that.
Yeah, I believe it. Mm-hmm. Although a lot of the musical references from Seth, Bright Eyes is mentioned a few times.
Which also Adam Brody, which has been talked about in media, how Josh Schwartz was just kept an eye and an ear open to the actors. And so like Adam would talk about Death Cab for Cutie and Bright Eyes, and then we would work it into the show. Right.
Yeah. They did the same thing with Elliot Page for Juno.
Yeah.
Half of it is like older indie stuff from like the 70s and 80s, and then the half was what people were actually listening to at the time. Yeah.
I know. When you said that, you're like, oh my God, Seth is me.
Yes, it was very, very shocking. Yeah. It would be like if you saw, a drawing that you had painted as a kid suddenly show up in a movie. You'd be like, no one has ever heard of this thing before. How is this on my TV?
How did you discover them? Or him? It's one dude you said?
Yeah, just, like being involved in like punk music when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my my favorite ship for this series is Seth and Ryan. Out of all the relationships in terms of romantic relationships.
What does ship mean?
When you ship two people, So usually it's sort of like a romantic ship, like a romantic relationship. Oh, I ship those two together.
Yeah.
But my favorite ship is the Ryan and Seth friendship.
So you want them to get together?
No, I just love their relationship.
Oh, okay. I was like, I haven't seen the other 3 seasons, so I was like, okay. I don't know where it goes.
But they're my favorite ship for this series. And I love the relationship and I love the bond they form so quickly because Ryan accepts Seth.
Yeah, instantly.
And Seth accepts Ryan. Yep. And these could not be two more opposite people, yet when they come together. And even in the pilot episode when Ryan has to leave and he, goes into Seth's bedroom and Seth wakes up and Adam played it so well because Adam looks so tired. He just got out of bed. And he was like, all right, I'll come to Chino. You'll show me your hood. And then they hug.
Yeah.
And I cry every time.
Yeah. And
so then you fast forward to the end. Seth leaves because Ryan is leaving.
Yeah. It's really good writing. A lot of the stuff in the last episode comes back around from things that happened earlier. And Ryan is so dark and he's so broody. The classic combination with that is someone who's not that at all. And that's partially why they work very well together. The actors, in a way, Ben McKenzie drops the Ryan act when it's just Seth and Ryan to when Ryan is interacting with adults or people he doesn't know. It's very different. It's really, really different. Because Seth comes out of his shell so much with Ryan around, when he leaves, at the end, him and Summer they end up together, right? They're pretty much together at the end of the first season.
They are, but then, Seth leaves a note.
Right. And so even though Seth has Summer,
he got the girl, right?
Right. He's got the girl in the OC. He's still got his parents, good relationship with them. He can't imagine inhabiting the place that he has been without Ryan there. A lot of shows don't do a good job of showing male to male friendships that go beyond I love you, man, or I would do anything for you. Ryan is always punching people and getting punched over and over and over again. It's almost always in defense of someone else or in defense of himself, right? So we see that we're used to seeing that display of this is how men love other people and this is how men love each other, right? They punch the people who are trying to hurt them, their loved ones. So for Seth to leave on the boat is so deep and complex and really left field. Ryan leaving, Luke leaving, some of the things that happened, it's okay, this makes sense. Seth leaving doesn't make any sense, and not in a bad way.
Oh, okay.
It's just it's surprising. And I applaud them for taking that direction. Again, it's a little anticlimactic because we know he's coming back.
How do we know that?
Well, I just know that he continued to be on the show. You know what I mean?
He could have continued off in Tahiti.
It's possible.
You don't know.
It's possible. I certainly don't know how he comes back.
Or where he...
Or why, or, what all transpires in terms of that. But I think it's great. And to take a character, in tarot cards, Seth would be the fool, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To take that character and give him the big sunset sailing off into the ocean, to give him that ending, I also really applaud them for doing that.
Turns out in real life, Adam Brody hated boats.
Wow. And that makes it...
That's what I've read and heard.
And that makes it all the more impressive.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's also crazy that, in the opening, he says, I have this boat and I'm going to go with Summer. And then he leaves her. I understand. I've had really good friends who are like part of my life, and then they leave or something happens and you just don't talk to them. And it's very, it's really upsetting.
Yeah.
You know? And so I see where he's coming from with that.
Friendship.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great.
The real ship that he needed was friendship.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really quickly before we end, I did just want to give a shout out to Rooney.
Rooney!
Which seemed like a band that was everywhere in pop culture, but also like who was really listening to Rooney? Like Rooney's agent was just good at getting them into movies and TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were here.
It's pretty great.
It was cool.
I mean,
yeah.
That episode, The Third Wheel.
I love that episode.
It's so...
Yeah. It's a high point because there's interesting things happening with all the different characters in that one. But yeah.
And I feel like in that episode, we're getting so much friendship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So much friendship. Yeah. And I always love the episodes that are... Same thing in The Homecoming, which is the Thanksgiving episode.
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
It's so good.
Seth balancing the two girls. Yeah. I'm fine with it. I'm not like, oh, I hate this, but it was the hardest for me to swallow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think that Seth should have ended up with Anna or Summer?
No.
Neither?
No, Summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No Anna?
I love Anna.
Yeah, me too.
I truly, truly love Anna. And she was also a character who I felt seen by as well because she was different. Like I never, as much as I love Marissa and Summer, I didn't relate to them in high school. They were not like, we were just into different things. Like if I'm talking about them as my peers, like I was definitely more like Seth. I was definitely more like Anna. And so I love her and I loved her confidence and how the whole confidence Cohen, which was like it's still my mantra.
Yeah. For the longest time, that was Michelle's, was it your Twitter bio or your Instagram bio?
Both.
Yeah, for the longest time. And in watching this, I said it to you and you're like, how do you know that? And I was like, because it was your bio forever.
But who remembers people's bios?
I remember screen names.
Yeah,
I remember people's away messages. Yeah. I don't know why.
So I really loved Anna, but I love Summer for Seth.
Okay.
And I think, like you said, like opposites attract and they were too similar.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come back next week. We're going to be talking about Marissa.
Yes.
Cooper.
Coop.
Thank you so much for listening to the OC20, a Movie Friends mini-series. If you like what you just heard and are curious about what else we do, visit moviefriendspodcast.com and follow Movie Friends Podcast on all social platforms.